Okay, Candace, welcome back.
Thank you.
We are almost done with the show as of this recording.
Yes. Yes.
Which is exciting.
Yes.
It is. It's been a grand experiment. It's been fantastic, but ready to get back to some semblance of normal, right?
Right. We met some great people, have some great memories, but it's time to move on.
Yes. Yeah. So in today's episode, we're again going a little bit lighter with this episode just because it's been a lot.
Yes.
But in today's episode, we're going to talk about something that has kind of gone away. So to start this episode, we're going to do a flashback to questions of the day.
Okay.
What is the thing that is no longer in Disney World that you miss the most? Tough question.
Well, it is because there's so much. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Can I have two?
Sure.
Okay. The first one is the Spectral Magic Parade, because that was just beyond anything. And the second one is the glittery sidewalks at Epcot.
Oh, yeah. Those were cool.
Sparkly, not glittery, sparkly.
Glittery is a good descriptor of it.
Yeah.
It looked like light up glitter all over the place.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so for me, I think the main one that I miss is going to be the topic of today's episode. So we're going to save that for after the open. But I think the shooting arcade.
That makes sense.
And I mentioned it in my episode last week of just something that's missing that sort of belonged in the land, was part of the story, brought you closer to being part of that land, and it's been replaced with a lounge.
Right. It was an immersive experience that you didn't necessarily have to do,
Right.
But it just kind of, and you've got some nostalgia with that anyway with your dad.
Right.
So, yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah, but now it's a lounge that only a small subset of people will be able to use.
Sure.
Because it's a DVC lounge, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so unless you're DVC, you can't even walk through the doors of one of the things that's in one of the lands that is supposed to be in a park that's meant for families together for all people.
But at the same time, we can't really argue about that because we've said that there need to be more adults-only experiences, which would eliminate a large subset of
that's true.
population of guests at the park because of children.
Well,
so we can't.
I can be a hypocrite if I want to be a hypocrite.
I'm just trying to save you from yourself. But yes, that is 100% true.
Yeah. If it impacts me negatively, it's worse than things that don't impact me negatively.
Great.
Hypocrite.
A little bit, but moving on.
And with that, let's get into the episode.
Hey, welcome to Hangin' at the Hangar Bar. I'm Scott.
And I'm Candace. We're here to chat all things Disney as child-free Disney adults. Stories, snacks, and a little magic along the way.
Grab a drink and get comfy and come hang out with us.
Okay, so Candace.
Yeah.
In today's episode, we are releasing this 4 days before the 4th of July.
Counting that day, yes.
Counting that day.
Yes.
So what is the most patriotic thing that you can think of in the Disney universe?
Okay, there's 3.
Okay.
Hall of Presidents.
Okay.
American Adventure.
Okay.
And a salute to all nations, but mostly America, or great moments in American history featuring the Muppets.
Yes, 100%. We are going to talk today about great moments in history, but only the American parts, because I miss it so much.
I know you're still salty about it.
And I still hold out hope that it's coming back.
We can hope.
And I'm going to reveal the episode title to you right now because I think it's classic and I'm pretty proud of myself.
Okay.
We are going to call this one Great Moments in History, but only the podcast parts.
Okay. That's pretty good.
It's a good title, isn't it?
Good. Yeah.
It's a good title. Okay. So why don't you tell our listeners that may never have seen great moments in American history, or what was the other title that you said? Or has it always been just great moments of America?
It's always been that. The salute to other nations, but mostly America, was from Muppet Vision 3D. And that
Okay.
was Sam Spinelli.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Ugh, another thing that I'm going to miss so much. They need to figure out how to use the Muppets appropriately. I hope the re-theme of Rock and Roller Coaster uses the Muppets appropriately.
I know. You're getting sidetracked.
I am. It's easy for me to do, especially when we're talking about the Muppets.
I know.
But why don't you talk to our listeners a little bit about what great moments of history, but mostly the American parts, was all about?
Okay, so what it was a combination. Well, it was a live presentation
Right.
that involved both human actors and Muppets
Mhm.
reliving scenes of American history. So, like the one that we saw was The Ride of Paul Revere.
Right.
And of course, as standard with most Muppet related things, it did break out into utter chaos
Right.
before the end of it, but that's part of what was best.
Yes. Yeah. And so,
And it was located in Liberty Square, kind of in that, well, and I'll call it a pinch point because it really is a bad traffic spot, but it's around the curve next to the Liberty Tree, kind of across from whatever that is.
right. Yeah. Struggling with your internal map today?
Yes,
Yes, that's okay.
just means it's time to go back.
Right. Exactly. And stand there and shed a single tear for what once was.
Yes. Yes.
But I'm not salty at all.
No,
No,
not at all.
Not at all. So, yeah, I think the great thing about great moments in history was there were just 2 or 3 different stories, right?
Yeah,
And they were all Revolutionary War time frame.
very fitting for Liberty Square.
Right. Because that's the time frame of everything that happens there.
Right.
And it was live entertainment.
Yeah.
You had your town crier that started off the show. You had
As the narrator.
as the narrator. You had live actors doing the parts of the Muppets. All of that up in the windows above Hall of Presidents, above the
It wasn't well, Sam showed up
Yeah.
above Hall of Presidents. Yes, he did.
Yeah. So all through Liberty Square, they were in the windows up there, and it just was typical Muppet chaos,
Yeah.
almost from the get-go. And Sam's over-the-top patriotism, Gonzo just being a weirdo, the chickens, the Miss Piggy wanting to be the star of the show, Kermit trying to hold everything together. It was, dare I say, perfect.
Oh, it was completely on brand, completely on theme. Everything was beautiful about it.
And it was so immersive.
Yes.
Yet it was still something you could just walk by. If it was happening and you had someplace to be, you'd look up and go, oh, that's fun. And you could just keep walking.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could prioritize it and go watch the whole show.
Right.
Which I think that's something that Disney kind of misses
Yes.
right now.
Yes.
They've cut out a lot of that live entertainment. A lot in Disney World specifically, a lot of their live entertainment is go to this theater and sit for 20 minutes or 30 minutes to get people out of the park, using air quotes.
Well, and I don't know that it's so much. I mean, yes, that's a large part of it to kind of disperse the crowd a little bit during that time. But I think a lot of it too is that the weather has changed so much that it's important for performer safety to have those spaces of shade and air conditioning where it's available, that kind of thing. Because I mean, we know costumes and stage lights and makeup and wigs and all of the things add a lot.
Yeah.
And then when you add hot weather and humidity or rainstorm or something on top of it, that just adds to it. And that's not necessarily a recipe for success.
Yep. Yeah, that's all very true. And I think one of the things that I really appreciated about great moments of American history, but mainly the American parts, was that in Magic Kingdom, it was one of those rare opportunities where it was educational yet not boring. It was really not all that disruptive to crowd flow. It was just fun for the sake of having fun.
Which I think is kind of another thing that's missing from Disney parks right now.
Right. Right. Just that in the moment fun. Like, even like, how cool would it be? And actually, we'll save that because we're going to get into how they could bring it back
Okay.
later in the conversation. So let's talk about when it closed.
Okay.
So when all live entertainment stopped in March of 2020 because of this little thing called the pandemic, it wasn't officially ever retired. It just kind of went away. And it just never came back. And did they ever really announce a closing of it?
No.
It just all of a sudden...
Which tells me a couple of things. It maybe wasn't as popular as maybe we thought it was, so there really wasn't a need to say we're taking this away.
Right.
Because everything else that they've announced closure on that is anywhere near the realm of popular, there's 10 kinds of uproar and it's 6 months early and all these things. So I don't know, but I think the pandemic did a lot of damage that maybe just on paper, it's like, this doesn't make financial sense to bring it back.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. That is probably one of the more expensive shows in Disney World.
Yeah.
And it was, like I was saying, why it worked was it was a potential to walk by and notice it while it's there.
Right.
Not having to seek it out and do it. But puppet actors that also do voices, and my guess is they probably didn't even do voices. My guess is they were just puppeteers, and the voices were piped in, and the puppeteers just knew the mouth movement.
Still a challenge.
Still a challenge. Like, puppeteers are, like, it's not easy to do.
No.
To make puppets look lifelike and all of that kind of thing is not a cheap thing to do. So I think cost probably was one of the main reasons. Because if you notice during the pandemic, what did Disney do a lot of? They pulled a lot of that live entertainment because they had to, in air quotes, which 100% social distancing, all the things, they had to pull the live entertainment out for a time. What are they not introducing as much of back into the parks?
Live entertainment.
Yeah. People are expensive. And if nobody bitches about live entertainment going away or not coming back in a way that you can relate to and connect to like you could, they'll be fine just shoving people into a 700-seat theater to watch a 20-minute show.
Yeah.
Versus 75 to 100 people standing around in a square without any shade, kind of half giggling at a show that's happening above them.
Well, and that's not the only example of that I can think of. Like, off the top of my head, I'm thinking the Citizens of Hollywood over in Hollywood Studios.
Right.
How they used to just be roaming around the streets and you could interact with them, or they'd, put on a little performance or whatever. They're not there anymore either.
Yep.
And I think that happened about the same time.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know.
And I haven't seen as much about, what's the barbershop quartet in Magic
The
Kingdom?
Dapper Dan.
Yeah, you haven't seen as much about them. They come out and do their little show up by the train station, and they ride down on the carriage, the trolleys. But you don't see as much of them just walking around singing either.
No, and I know that's kind of a special thing. Like, during the Halloween party, they
Right.
come out as something else that I can't remember the name of it. My brain is just not. I apologize. But they're that, and then they do special Christmas stuff. But you're right. There's a definite void, I think,
Right.
of just that spur of the moment. Hey, what's that moment of magic over there happening? I should go watch it.
Right. Yeah.
Which makes me sad because I know exactly what's happened.
Right.
People are too invested in their phones and getting to the next thing, and not taking the opportunity to partake in the magic that makes Disney different.
Right. Yeah, you and I have both lamented about that for a long time, that so many people now find their value in the number of rides they can get on. And I say rides very intentionally as someone who likes to call things attractions. But people are finding their value in rides.
Yes.
That's why the complaints about wait times are so much higher. That's why they're having to add a whole bunch of new attractions. Now, they do have some keeping up with the Joneses that they have to do, and they have to update that kind of thing. I get all that. This is not me saying don't change anything ever, because if you listen to me at all, you know I'm a big fan of change in the park. So, but they have to do it right to keep that Disney edge and make Disney Disney. And I'm worried they're losing that. And I've been saying that since this show aired.
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what did we really lose when this show went away.
Okay.
What does Liberty Square have in it other than Hall of Presidents?
Haunted Mansion.
Is that part of Liberty Square? I guess I don't think about that as part of Liberty Square. You're right, but I just never think of it. Like that to me feels like its own thing.
You bet it's not.
Interesting.
The riverboat, which is no more.
Right, which is as of July 7th, I think that closes down.
Yep. Liberty Tree Tavern.
Yeah.
Columbia Harbor House. So you've got some spots to eat and a couple of attractions. But other than that, that's it.
Right. And I think the point that I was going to try and make there was this show brought Liberty Square to life.
Yeah.
It kind of made it a destination spot other than Haunted Mansion.
Right. Because during that time, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think during that time, if you're stopping to watch the show, you notice things like the Liberty Tree. And maybe take a minute to notice the 13 lanterns.
Right.
And notice the replica of the Liberty Bell and the state flags and all of the very intentional detail. And again, we're going back to Disney details. But maybe that served as sort of a impetus for people to slow down and notice some of that stuff.
Right.
They're just breezing on by right now.
Yeah, all the flags.
Yeah.
That are there, all of that. And that's the thing is that show also was one of the few things in Magic Kingdom that has a low barrier to entry. There's no queue. There's no go sitting and waiting in a theater. It's one of those things, if you happen to be in the area, you can catch it. You can stop and watch while you walk by. All of those things are non-existent at Disney right now. You even think about the parades. People line up for hours for the parade.
Yep.
They don't think about that as a queue line, though. They think about that as the best spot for the parade.
Right.
That's still a queue line.
Yep.
This show had no barrier to the fun. And that's something that's missing. Again, I think outside of Epcot and World Showcase and some of the things that happen there, especially during the festivals, there's nothing else at Disney that really has that low of a barrier to entry to enjoy the fun.
No. And again, it's kind of a moment of magic where it's like, oh, like you just see something and it's like, oh, well, I've never noticed that before. I didn't know that was happening. Let's go check it out. And like, that's how we stumbled on it the first time.
Right.
And it became one of our favorite things to the point of we made it a priority to go back and see it.
Right. We look and say, okay, here's the show times. Let's make sure we're in that part of the park around this time so we can see it. But again, low barrier. If we happen to get ourselves caught on the other side of the park, okay, it's fine.
Right.
Which is probably also part of the reason why it's not there.
Yeah. We digress.
We digress. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about, since they never officially announced a close, what if it came back?
Love it.
Would it work with the way Magic Kingdom is currently set up, with the crowd levels the way they are, and the current priorities? Would it work again?
I think it could, especially with kind of the With the closure of Muppet Vision 3D in Hollywood studios and the reimagination of Rock and Roller Coaster with the Muppets, I think there's a bigger push on the Muppets right now. So if they were to bring it back in Magic Kingdom, that would be impetus for people to move over to Magic Kingdom to check it out, to appreciate the Muppets.
Right.
So I think it could.
Yeah, I agree. So here's another question for you, because I agree with your point 100%. Magic Kingdom is kind of a uniquely American feeling park.
Yes. Yes.
There's not a lot of there's some French feel back in New Fantasyland. There's
Yes.
some German feel in Fantasyland.
Yes.
But pretty much that's a uniquely American.
I mean, Africa in Adventureland, but I get where you're going. I get where you're going.
So what if you took great moments in history, but mostly the American parts, on tour to the other lands?
Tell me more.
So in my mind, what I'm thinking is, so they pop up in the tops of buildings and that kind of thing and do a show. What if they were dressed in frontier costumes and popping up in places around Frontierland to tell the story of the American frontier, instead of it just being the Revolutionary War?
Okay.
What if they were dressed in their pigs in space costumes over at Tomorrowland? What if they told the story of the rise and fall of the American Main Street on Main Street, USA?
Mm-hmm. Ooh, they could even like collab with Spaceship Earth and tell the history of communication
Right.
in Tomorrowland, and then say, for more, go see the prettiest girl in school and ride on Spaceship Earth.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Like, and they could do the uniquely American parts of that. Adventureland. They could come in, and there's Muppet precedent about Shakalaka in
Yes.
Adventureland. But they could talk about how the American people explored that country.
Or it doesn't even need to be necessarily great moments in American history. For that, they could just retell Muppet Treasure Island.
Right.
Just do a very brief,
Right. That would be a tough way to
telling of the story.
Right.
Of course, they have to have Boom Shakalaka and Flaubert.
And if you haven't seen that movie, pause this episode.
Go watch
Check that movie. Like, not very often will I tell you to stop listening to us to go watch a movie. Go watch that movie, then come back and finish this episode.
Yes.
Okay, so another kind of what if it came back question that is kind of is the country still in a place where a show like that works with an international audience? So let me ask a more detailed question.
Okay.
What message does that show send about America and Disney's evolving voice? Like, there's such an international audience. Are we as a country in a place right now where it's okay to be like, to show that American exceptionalism? Or do they need to change the show to bring it back?
I would say they need to revise it because, and I don't mean to argue, but I don't know that exceptionalism is the right word. I think ingenuity might be a word. Industrialism, grit might be another word. But I don't know that exceptional, because getting involved in a war does not mean you're exceptional.
Right. So let me define exceptionalism.
Okay.
That, like, American exceptionalism, how I define that is that America is the only one that does things right.
Oh, heavens no. Heavens no.
That's kind of the tone of that show. That's Sam Eagle.
100% that's Sam Eagle. So maybe there needs to be like Robin trotting across the stage with a disclaimer, or Bean Bunny walking across with, a disclaimer saying, giant asterisk and
Sam
whatever.
calls everybody else weirdos, but he's the weirdo for feeling this way.
Yes.
I think just in the culture, the current political climate, I worry about what people would do to that show.
Right. Yes. And we don't need any more excuse for any more division than we already have. So that I might be a little bit worried about, but overall, I think it could work. And there are different parts of the history of our nation that wouldn't need to be so patriotic.
Right.
Because a lot's happened.
Right.
And I think you could approach the subject a little differently and a little more sensitively.
Right.
And still have a good show.
Yeah. Agreed. And it's okay to be proud to be American.
It is. It is.
Our country's done a lot for the world.
Yes. And
I think what I like about the Muppets, too, is they poke a little bit of fun at that.
mm-hmm.
So as long as people don't ruin it.
Yes.
Just like Hall of Presidents, I've never been. Full disclosure, I don't plan on going. It's not my speed. Unless I'm really hot and really need a nap. I'm not going to go into Hall of Presidents. It's just not something I care about doing. But everything that I've read about that in our current political environment is people are now going into that and booing and cheering for political figures on both sides of the aisle. Instead of just watching the show. Like, I heard somebody say the way Hall of Presidents needs to change is don't give current president a voice anymore. Have it tell the history of the country and have all the presidents maybe introduce themselves like they do, but don't have anybody, or cut it off like in 1900 and have it be the history of America that way, because people are ruining that experience.
Well, and I think that's really interesting that people will go to something like that and sit and do that when the figures on stage are animatronic. They are not people. They cannot hear you. They cannot respond to what you're doing. Stop ruining other people's vacation for your ass.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's just inexcusable behavior.
Right.
Throw them out.
People ruin it.
Throw them out.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't care what side of the aisle you sit on. That's disgraceful.
Yeah. Whether it's Obama,
shame on you,
Biden, or Trump, or whatever, you don't cheer or boo in that theater.
Shame on you.
Based on your political league.
No.
It shouldn't happen.
Leave it at the gate.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so with that little bit of snark, let's talk a little bit about what could be.
Okay.
If we could make a change to that show when we bring it back, what would we add or change? We've talked a little bit about that, but is there anything else? Would you maybe have them do world history instead?
Well, going to your point of taking it on tour around the lands, I think a more global perspective would be really interesting.
Yeah.
And I think it would fit with Disney's overall culture, inclusion, diversity mix better. And I think maybe like part of, like, as we've been having this discussion, part of what runs through my head is say that there is a child in the park watching this event. And something with them clicks, and so they get interested in reading more about Paul Revere.
Right.
That opens up a world of learning. So if you put that on a global scale and a grander scale, you may get a child interested in ancient Egypt or the Roman Empire or whatever the case may be for that point in history. How is that a bad thing? Learning is never a bad thing. And the quicker that we can expand people's horizons and change their perspective a little bit, so it's not so laser focused on me, myself, and I, but more us, the better we're all going to be for it.
100% agree. 100% agree. And I like that idea of bringing in those world history moments and letting it continue to be a fun way to learn. Because we don't, again, the only place, Epcot was meant to do that, but they've been moving away from that too.
Right.
They've been bringing some of it back with Moana's Journey to Water or some of those kinds.
Right.
But so they're starting to get back to some of those roots instead of just trying to make it another theme park. But here's another idea for you that I will die on this hill of wanting this to become a thing tomorrow.
Okay.
Sam Eagle in Liberty Square right after the fireworks, hosting a nightly fireworks review.
Can we do that tomorrow?
Right.
That is a fabulous idea.
You could even have it be like, if you get somebody that can do Sam Eagle's voice, You could even throw in some of the other Muppets, but have it be truly live.
Yeah.
Not the same thing every night.
Yeah. Well, kind of like they do with Turtle Talk with Crush. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, like, if something interesting happens or it's windy and, like, he could talk about how his feathers almost caught on fire. He could talk about, like, all of, like, there's so much that Sam Eagle could do in a 5 or 10 minute nightly fireworks review that started 5 minutes after the fireworks stopped.
Yes. Yes.
I would almost prioritize watching the fireworks from Liberty Square to watch that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, screw the projections on the castle. I'm going to go watch Sam Eagle.
Or if you integrate some sort of screen, and I know this is a big thing for me to say this, but work with me here. Or if you had a viewing location with Sam Eagle and a screen that was showing a live feed of the fireworks that night, he could commentate on what's happening and, add his little Sam Eagle-ness on top of all of it. That would be fantastic.
There's not nearly enough red light.
Right. Yes, but that way you could see the projections. You could see the whole thing and still have that added little Sam.
Disney, TM.
Oh, TM, 100%.
Please give us credit for that. At least one free admission and front row seats to Sam Eagle doing this. That's all I ask for payments. 1 day park admission and front row seats to watching Sam do it. Maybe on his first night. That would be the only thing we'd ask for. Then you can steal the idea and make all the money off of it.
And maybe some popcorn. But it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Everything is fine. Okay, let's close it out there.
Okay.
Let me just say, Disney, bring it back.
Please bring it back.
Please bring it back. We're not mad that you took it away.
Well,
okay,
kind of.
A little bit mad.
Yeah.
But it's more disappointment.
Yes.
Like, I'm so disappointed. Like, I loved it so much. And then you stole it from me.
Yeah.
Quietly, in the dark of night, you took it away.
Oh my, we are dramatic today. Sam.
Had to throw in my little Muppet closing.
It was lovely.
Okay, so, folks, if you ever saw this show live and you loved it, or you never saw it and you're furious that you missed it, we'd love to hear from you on our Facebook or our Instagram. Come out, let us know. Maybe we got it wrong. Maybe I'm nostalgic for the sake of being nostalgic and you're glad it's gone because you hated that crowd for that 10 minutes in Liberty Square. Let us know that too. We'd love to know. Thank you as always for listening. Come out to our Facebook, Instagram, interact with us. If you're interested in supporting the show, we do have a Patreon. You get early access to the show. As we build more audience in the Patreon space, we'll try and do more tiers and that kind of thing as well if you're interested in that. But you don't have to. We'll continue doing this for free for you just because we love you and we love doing it. But if you want to support the show, it's an option for you. And remember, there is always a great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
And we'll see you real soon.